The first move was simple, straightforward faces, smiled, hands shook. The game began with all the civility of a polite transaction, but hidden beneath the surface were motives layered in deceit and desire for power. What started as an exchange of pleasantries, a quiet negotiation beneath the hum of expectations, was far from just an innocent game. It was a game played in the shadows, where the rules were never truly defined, only subtly enforced by those who thought they held the power. You saw it, the undercurrent of manipulation, the glint in their eyes as they danced around their carefully constructed facades. They had learned the rules well, and they thought they were invincible. But you were different. You knew the truth. You saw beyond their smoke and mirrors, beyond the glittering words that coded their treachery. You knew that the game they played was not a game at all. It was an elaborate lie, a construction built on weak foundations of temporary victories. They had their hands outstretched, waiting for you to fall into their carefully laid traps, believing that they had the upper hand. But you did not fall. You did not play by their rules. You saw that the game was flawed and twisted, bound by their definitions of success and dominance, and you refused to accept it. You knew that there was power in breaking away from the narrative they imposed upon you, and so you did. You changed the rules. With a calm fury, you flipped the script and turned their world upside down. You refused to be a pawn in their game. Where they played for status, for fleeting victories, you played for something deeper, something more profound. You understood that power was not given, it was taken, molded, and reshaped. The power they thought they wielded was nothing more than a shadow, a fragile illusion that crumbled the moment you stepped beyond it. It was never about playing their game better. It was about playing a different game altogether, a game that existed in the spaces between their words, in the quiet moments when no one was watching. They thought they could control you, contain you, label you, and limit your potential. They thought they could measure your worth by the narrow standards they set. But you broke free from those boundaries, not with noise or grand gestures, but with the quiet defiance of someone who understood that true power lies not in what is said, but in what is left unsaid. You didn't need their approval. You didn't need their validation. You didn't need to conform to their rules, because you knew something they didn't. You knew that the greatest victories were the ones that were never acknowledged, the ones that no one could see, because they were victories of the mind, of the spirit, and of the heart. They thought they could keep you down with their whispers, their manipulation, and their lies. But you saw their game for what it truly was, a petty, short-sighted attempt to control something far more profound than they could ever understand. You didn't just change the rules, you rewrote them entirely. While they fought for scraps, for hollow victories, you played for the future. You weren't content to win small, temporary battles. You played for something that no one else could see, something that no one else understood. They fought to rise to the top, to claim fleeting moments of success that would evaporate the moment they achieved them. But you were building something that would last, something they couldn't tear down with all their games and tricks. Their moves were predictable, their actions robotic, their minds enslaved to a cycle of repetition. They played the same game over and over, hoping that one day they would be the ones to win, that one day they would emerge on top. But you broke their cycle. You shattered the illusion they had built for themselves. You didn't need their approval or their validation. You didn't need their recognition. You knew that the only person who needed to see your worth was you. The moment they realized that you weren't playing by their rules, that you had rewritten the entire game, their confidence cracked. They saw the shift, the quiet storm brewing beneath your calm exterior. They knew they had underestimated you, that they had miscalculated your strength. They had expected you to fall in line, to bend to their will, but instead, you stood firm. You showed them that power isn't in compliance, it's in resistance, in the refusal to be boxed in by the limits they imposed on you. You saw their weaknesses long before they saw yours. You knew what they wanted, what they feared, and you used that knowledge not to manipulate them, but to liberate yourself. You understood that the greatest power came from within, from the ability to shape your destiny without needing anyone's approval or permission. The world they had built was fragile, held together by a delicate balance of fear and control. But you shattered that balance, not with violence or chaos, but with clarity, with understanding, with the quiet power of someone who refuses to be controlled. They played games with rules designed to keep them on top, to maintain their illusion of control. But you weren't playing the same game. You were playing a different game altogether. And as you began to take control of the board, to redefine the parameters of success and failure, they were left scrambling, unsure of how to react, unsure of how to respond to someone who refused to play by their rules. They had built their empire on lies, on deceit, on power they thought was untouchable. But you had built your strength on something far more enduring, on the belief that you could change the game, not by beating them at their own tricks, but by refusing to play their game at all. In doing so, you became the master of your own fate, the architect of your own destiny. They thought they could manipulate you, but they had underestimated your strength. They thought they could control you, but they never understood the depths of your resolve. As they struggled to understand what had happened, as they tried to regain their footing, you moved forward, unshaken, unbothered by their confusion and fear. They thought they could push you down, keep you small, limit your potential. But you showed them the truth, that their games, their petty tactics, their false sense of control meant nothing in the face of someone who was willing to rewrite the rules. You changed the game, not with noise or fanfare, but with the quiet, unyielding strength of someone who refused to accept their limitations. They played games with you, yes, but you changed the rules. You didn't just win, you redefined what winning meant. You showed them that true power is not in domination, not in control, but in the ability to transcend their rules, to exist beyond their limitations. While they scrambled to rebuild the game they thought they could control, you were already moving on to the next level, creating something new, something that they would never see coming. And as they watched you from the sidelines, struggling to understand how it all unraveled, you knew the truth. They had never really understood the game at all. They had been so focused on playing by their own set of rules, so absorbed in their fragile empire, that they never saw the one thing that mattered. The game could be changed. You had changed it. And in doing so, you had proven that the only rule that matters is the one you create for yourself. The world they built, brick by brick, was a structure bound by falsehoods, a maze of illusions constructed to trap those who lacked the courage to break free. They believed in the limits they imposed, the walls they erected around their perceived power. They played within their self-made boundaries, convinced that no one could ever escape their grasp. But you saw beyond the walls. You knew that those walls were not fortresses, but prisons, designed to keep the truth of your potential, hidden beneath layers of confusion and deceit. And you chose to break free. You chose to leave their world behind, to build a world of your own, one where the rules were yours to write, yours to shape. It wasn't easy. No, it never is. They had spent years perfecting their games, mastering the art of control, of bending others to their will. They were masters of manipulation, experts in the subtle craft of holding power over others, and they never expected anyone to challenge their authority. But you were no ordinary person. You had seen their games for what they were: empty, hollow constructs built to hold you in place, to keep you small, to ensure that you never realized your full potential, and you refused to stay in their shadow. You stood tall, not with arrogance, but with the quiet confidence of someone who knew exactly what they were capable of. The moment you decided to change the rules, the moment you chose to break away, everything shifted. You no longer saw yourself as a participant in their game, but as the architect of your own destiny. You weren't playing by their terms. You were setting your own terms, carving out a space where their rules no longer applied. You took what they thought was theirs, their power, their control, their influence, and turned it into something completely different. While they struggled to maintain the illusion of power, you were already moving forward, already creating something new, something unstoppable. They tried to fight back, of course. They would. They couldn't stand the idea of losing control, of seeing someone they thought of as insignificant break free from their grasp. So they would send their minions, they would whisper lies, they would try to manipulate the circumstances in their favor. But none of it worked, because you weren't interested in fighting within their framework. You weren't interested in playing the same game they played. Their tricks, their deceit, their strategies were meaningless to you now. They had no power over you, and they were beginning to realize it. You didn't need their approval. You didn't need their validation. You didn't need anyone's permission to succeed, to live life on your own terms. They had spent so long convincing others that they were the gatekeepers of success, that they alone held the keys to power. But you shattered that illusion with your very existence. You proved that success isn't about who approves of you or who recognizes your worth. Success is about the belief you have in yourself, the unshakable certainty that you can do whatever you set your mind to, regardless of what anyone else thinks. You are no longer bound by their rules, and that made you unstoppable. As they watched you rise, as they saw the momentum building beneath your feet, they began to panic. They couldn't understand how you had done it. They couldn't fathom how you had so easily slipped through their fingers, how you had outsmarted them at their own game. They had spent their lives playing by their own set of rules, believing that they were the ones in control, and yet here you were, rewriting the script and leaving them in the dust. The fear began to creep in, the doubt, the realization that they were no longer the ones calling the shots, the realization that someone who was once beneath them had just outgrown them, and that terrified them. You had proven that the game wasn't about following the rules. It was about creating the rules. It was about looking at the world, understanding how it worked, and then deciding to change it. You didn't just accept the limitations that were placed on you. You didn't accept that there was only one way to succeed, that there was only one path to greatness. You forged your own path, a path that was uniquely yours, a path that was built on your vision, your values, and your unrelenting will to succeed. And the moment you began to walk that path, the world started to change around you. People noticed. They watched as you moved with purpose, with clarity, with a force that they couldn't deny. They saw the strength you exuded, the quiet power that came from knowing exactly who you were and what you were capable of. You weren't like them. You didn't play by their rules. You didn't need to follow the beaten path. You carved your own, and with each step, you built momentum until there was no stopping you. They watched in disbelief, but they couldn't do anything to stop you. They tried to sabotage your progress. They tried to turn others against you. They tried to plant seeds of doubt in your mind, but it was all for nothing. You had already made up your mind. You had already committed to your own vision, to your own game. You were no longer afraid. You were no longer looking for approval. You had found your own power, your own strength, and nothing they did could take that from you. Their world, their rules, their games, it was all meaningless now. It was a relic of a time when you thought you had to follow their lead. But now, you were leading, and the world would follow. It wasn't about defeating them, not in the way they thought it was. It was about moving beyond them. It was about transcending their shallow victories, their fleeting power, their broken game. You didn't need to prove anything to them. You didn't need to be the best in their world, because you had already created your own. You had already rewritten the rules of success, and those rules were far greater than anything they could ever understand. You were no longer playing for their recognition. You were playing for something bigger. You were playing for your own truth, your own vision, your own legacy. The game they had played was small. It was petty. It was limited. But the game you were playing was limitless. And the moment you stepped into that space, the moment you understood that you didn't need their rules to succeed, you had already won. The world was yours, and you were the one in control. They had thought they could break you, but they couldn't. They had thought they could manipulate you, but they failed. They had thought they could keep you small, keep you under their thumb, but they were wrong. You had become something they couldn't touch. You had become a force of nature, a being beyond their comprehension, and in doing so, you had proven the greatest lesson of all, that the only true power is the power you create within yourself. You don't need anyone's permission. You don't need anyone's approval. You don't need to follow anyone else's rules. You create your own, and when you do, nothing and no one can stop you. Because when you have created your own rules, when you have forged your own path, when you have stepped into your own power with unwavering certainty, the world becomes a mere backdrop to your journey. It is a world that will try to define you, shape you, limit you, but none of that matters anymore because you have already transcended it. They can throw every obstacle in your way. They can create all the barriers they want. They can try to pull you back into their game, but it will be meaningless. It will only serve to highlight the fact that they are desperately clinging to a game that you've already left behind. They cannot stop you. What they don't understand, what they could never have understood, is that true power doesn't come from controlling the game. It doesn't come from manipulating others into following a set of rules that were never made for them to win. True power comes from the ability to see the game for what it truly is, a construct, a limitation, an illusion. And the moment you see that, you are no longer a player in their world. You are the creator of your own. You step into the infinite, where the rules are endless, where the possibilities are limitless, and where the only boundaries are the ones you impose upon yourself. They thought they could control the narrative, keep you in check, box you in with their rules. But what they didn't realize was that the true freedom comes from the refusal to accept any of their definitions of success, power, or worth. You didn't just play by a different set of rules. You eliminated the need for rules altogether. You freed yourself from the very notion that anyone else had the right to define your journey, to measure your worth. You defined yourself on your own terms, and when you did that, you became unstoppable. This is the essence of true freedom. It's not freedom from struggle. It's freedom to create your own struggle. It's the power to redefine your obstacles as opportunities, your challenges as stepping stones, and your fears as fuel for your fire. Where they see walls, you see doors, and where they see limitations, you see infinite potential. This is where the game is no longer a game at all. It becomes a reflection of your will, your vision, and your unbreakable resolve. Nothing and no one can stop you, because you no longer play by the rules of those who seek to control you. You control the narrative. You control the rules. And this is the power they can never take from you. They will try. They will always try. They will send their minions to undermine you, whispering in the ears of those around you, sowing seeds of doubt, trying to turn the world against you, but none of it will matter, because you are no longer bound by their games. You are not a pawn, not a puppet, not a cog in their system. You are the one pulling the strings. You are the one deciding what happens next. There will be moments, of course, when the weight of their resistance feels heavy, when their tactics are so persistent, their attacks so precise, that it seems like the world is against you. But you have to understand this. The resistance is not your enemy. The resistance is the sign that you're doing something right. The resistance is the proof that you have stepped beyond the confines of their game, that you have ventured into uncharted territory, and that the world is scrambling to catch up with you. When you face opposition, know that it is not an obstacle to overcome, but a confirmation that you are no longer playing by their rules. You are not the one who has to prove yourself to them. They are the ones who have to prove themselves to you. It is easy to give in, to fall back into the comfort of the game they've created, to revert to the familiar structures that they've laid out for you. But you are no longer comfortable there. You have tasted the freedom that comes from creating your own path, from embracing your own vision, and from walking a road that is uniquely yours. The pressure they put on you is nothing more than a reflection of their fear, their inability to accept that someone like you could escape the game they've spent their lives perfecting. You must remember this. They are not powerful because they can control you. They are powerful only because you let them. The moment you realize that you don't need their approval, their validation, or their permission to succeed, you take away their power. They are no longer a threat. They are no longer the ones who define your success. You do. You are the one who chooses where your path leads. You are the one who writes your own rules. And with that knowledge, nothing can stand in your way. There will always be those who try to put you back into their mold, who will tell you that you must play by their rules in order to succeed. But the truth is, their idea of success is nothing more than an illusion. Success is not about following the path they've laid out for you. Success is about creating your own path, forging your own way, and daring to walk a road that others are too afraid to even consider. Success is about breaking free from the constraints that have been imposed upon you and building something greater than anyone ever thought possible. And the beauty of it all is that once you've seen the truth, once you've recognized the game for what it truly is, nothing can make you go back. You've already risen above it. They will try to pull you back into their world of rules and limitations, but you will always see through it. You will always know that the only way forward is the one you create for yourself. The world they've built is fragile. It's fragile because it is rooted in fear, in control, and in the illusion of power. But the world you are building is unshakable because it is built on belief, on the belief that you are capable of anything, on the belief that you are in control of your destiny, and on the belief that nothing is impossible. And with that belief, there is nothing and no one that can stop you. You are not playing their game. You are playing a game they can never understand. You are playing a game of vision, of strength, of limitless potential. And as you move forward, as you continue to create your own rules and shape your own future, the world will watch in awe, knowing that they can never replicate what you've done. They can never stop you, because you are the creator, the force, the one who refuses to be confined by anyone else's limitations. So, when they look at you, when they watch your every move, understand that the real game has already been won. You've already won. And no matter how much they try to manipulate, control, or suppress you, they will never win. Because you have already rewritten the rules, and that's a game they will never, ever be able to play. Nothing and no one can stop you. You are beyond their reach, and the world is yours for the taking. In the end, The truth is simple. Once you create your own rules, once you step beyond the boundaries they set for you, nothing can stop you. The world may try to hold you back, to impose its limitations, but you have already broken free. You are the architect of your own destiny, the creator of your own path. No one else can define your worth or control your journey. You are unstoppable, and the only game that matters is the one you choose to play. The world is yours. Take it.